Hey everyone, and welcome back to today's Explainer. We are diving into a really fascinating piece of microcinema today. We're going to completely break down a brilliant one-minute cinematic script called The Whispering Grave. And what makes this incredibly brief piece of storytelling just so impactful is how masterfully it takes your classic horror setup, a tale of pure fear in a dark graveyard, and completely flips the script. It transforms into this profound story of empathy and human connection. So let's jump right into this and see exactly how it pulls off such a massive emotional pivot in just 60 seconds.
To start, I want you to really put yourself right in the setting of our source material. Picture this. It's a dark, windy night. You're walking completely alone past an old, weathered graveyard. The clouds are completely blocking out the moon. In that kind of environment, what is the absolute scariest sound you could possibly hear? The writer knows exactly what you're expecting here. They're using our preconceived notions of the horror genre to hook us, perfectly cranking up the tension right before they reveal the true underlying message of the whole story.
All right, let's look at Section 1, The Dark Village Night.
The script immediately drops us right into this deeply atmospheric and unsettling environment. You've got a cold wind blowing through a totally silent village, and the moon is hiding behind dark clouds. And stepping right into this darkness is our protagonist. We meet a nervous young boy named Arjun, walking home with literally nothing but a lantern for safety. Then we get his direct dialogue. Why is it so quiet tonight? With just those few words, the script establishes this incredible, eerie atmosphere. Arjun is completely on edge, and honestly, we are right there with him.
Moving right along to Section 2, The Forgotten Grave Encounter.
So as Arjun passes the old village graveyard, our absolute worst fear comes true. Out of the pitch darkness, a faint, mysterious voice calls out. And look how the script breaks down the mechanics of suspense here. It's brilliant. First, you get the whisper, "Help! Help me!" And you're thinking, is this a trap? Second, Arjun just freezes. It's that universal physical reaction to pure terror. Third, the lantern starts shaking in his hand. That shaking light literally projects his internal fear out into the physical world, right as he calls out to the empty darkness, "Who's there?"
Which brings us to Section 3, Revealing the Spirit's Past.
So the whisper leads Arjun off the path over to this old, broken, weed-covered grave. And suddenly, a glowing spirit appears. The contrast here is just a masterclass in narrative subversion. Based on all our ghost story expectations, we are totally braced for a jump scare, right? Or maybe some malevolent entity out for revenge. But the reality is completely different. We actually learned that this spirit was a kind traveler who helped this very village years ago, but tragically his grave was just abandoned over time. He isn't seeking revenge at all. He is just seeking remembrance and peace.
This line right here is the absolute emotional anchor of the entire piece. No one remembers me anymore. That poignant dialogue from the spirit fundamentally shifts the entire tone of our explainer today. We pivot entirely away from horror and suspense and plunge straight into this profound sadness, the tragedy of being forgotten. It turns out the scariest thing in this graveyard isn't some monster. It's the terrible, quiet reality of a forgotten legacy.
Let's see how this plays out in Section 4, A Debt of Remembrance.
Because the spirit was this kind traveler who had actually helped the village, the community effectively owed him the basic dignity of memory. It was a debt they completely failed to pay. So how does Arjun react? Instead of bolting in the opposite direction in pure terror, he reacts with profound compassion. The very next morning, Arjun takes deliberate physical actions to restore the grave. He cleans the broken stone, he clears away all the overgrown weeds, and he places fresh flowers. Arjun doesn't need to perform an exorcism, he just needs to show a little bit of care. These simple acts of maintenance finally pay that societal debt the village had neglected for so long.
And Scene 5 provides us with just a beautiful emotional resolution. That night, the spirit appears one last time, but the vibe is completely changed now. The text notes the spirit is smiling peacefully. He simply says, "Thank you, Arjun." And then the spirit slowly fades right into the moonlight, and the script explicitly tells us that the graveyard becomes calm again. All that terrifying tension introduced in Scene 1, it's completely resolved through one simple act of empathy.
Now for the big picture, Section 5, Why Remembrance Matters.
Let's take a quick step back from the plot for a second. Why does a one-minute story resonate so deeply with us? Well, it's because it taps into a really fundamental human truth. Remembrance is the active process of keeping a memory alive. It's paying honor to a legacy and maintaining a human connection that is always at risk of fading away beneath the weeds. This story brilliantly uses the framework of a fictional ghost story to highlight a very real-world, universal human desire. None of us, literally no one, wants to be entirely forgotten by the world or by the communities we eventually leave behind.
The script ends with this really powerful closing thought delivered by the narrator. Sometimes the scariest whispers are not seeking fear, they are seeking remembrance. It perfectly summarizes how this story subverts horror tropes to deliver a core message about empathy. It challenges us to look past our initial fears, the things we find unsettling or spooky on the surface, and recognize the lonely, forgotten humanity that might be hiding underneath, just waiting to be acknowledged.
Which brings us to our final thought. The true power of the Whispering Grave isn't just in how it resolves Arjun's encounter with the spirit. It's actually in the question it forces us to ask about our own lives. We all have people who have shaped us, who helped us, or paved the way for us in some way. So I'm going to leave you with this. Who will you remember today? Take just a moment to honor legacy in your own life, so that their grave, whether it's literal or metaphorical, never goes whispering into the dark. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.